Hi, I'm Erik Voss, and I'm a big fan of the Pixar movies. I actually really liked Cars 3, which I finally got around to seeing. But like many of you, I'm sure, at least those of you who weren't little kids when these Cars movies came out, just itching to buy toy maters, these movies have always seemed a little weird to me. Like, I know I'm not the first person to ask, what the hell happened to the humans of this world? Also, how do the cars reproduce? Like, I can't be the only one to think about it, guys. Whoa! Okay, the internet is a sick place. And no, not because Lightning and Mater are both guys. Like, love is love is love. Just maybe don't do this kind of thing to Disney characters. And sure, there have been many other over-analytical weirdos like me out there who have spun out their own crazy theories about the Pixar extended universe, specifically the world of Cars. But now that Cars 3 is out in the world, New Rockstars is sharing the darkest theories about the Cars universe that are fun to think about, even if they're kind of messed up. And by staying on this train of thought for far too long, we actually realized a few new awful truths that we're gonna share with you. So buckle in, kids. Let's get started with the biggest question. What are the cars exactly? Specifically, what is their anatomical structure and biology and life cycle? For example, Lightning McQueen wins the opening race by a tongue. So cars have teeth and tongues, apparently. Also, there were those two fangirls who flashed their headlights at Lightning, basically implying that headlights are boobs. But then there's the most creepy detail. The cars have doors with handles on those doors. So like at some point, humans got inside and drove these things. So is Mater like, ooh-wee, I got a family of skeletons in my head. Get her done. Oh, good God. We also know that there is a car life cycle. So in Cars 3, there's a younger kid car who's a fan of Lightning. So these things aren't just adults. And in Cars 2, Bernoulli points to his mother in the stands who looks exactly like him. So somehow these cars are reproducing and making smaller baby cars. We also know that cars can get hurt and die. Like for example, we know that Doc Hudson died somehow between Cars and Cars 2. Apparently there was a scene in Cars 3 that was gonna address how this happened, but they cut it because, yeah, it was super depressing. Honestly, the Cars sequels took the franchise to a lot of weird places. Cars 2 is a random spy movie where we see cars shoot each other and blow each other up and torture each other and crush each other into cubes. The movie also implies that cars require oxygen, and that they eat and drink human food like martinis and wasabi. We also see them take off their tires as if they're shoes. And then we know that there are different car species and small plane birds. Now, there have been a few terrifying theories to explain all of this. One idea from film theorists was that the cars are actually exoskeletons for other sentient beings that live inside these automobile shells. So like these beings could be super smart insects or crustaceans or some kind of alien. Like a lot of invertebrates have exoskeletons and segmented bodies similar to how cars are structured. And a lot of these creatures shed their husks just like how the cars swap out their parts. That could also explain the car life cycle. Like these creatures just crawl into new car bodies as they get bigger, and then when they get old, they crawl out and die. So yeah, kids, that's what happened to Doc. He's an old grumpy bug who slithered out of a Hudson Hornet whose corpse is now withering away somewhere under the Arizona sun. Now, before you call me crazy or cruel, this whole idea originated with Pixar itself. Jay Ward is Pixar's creative director of the whole Cars universe, and he wrote a long document called The World of Cars Owner's Manual. And while that document is probably locked away deep within the Disney vault and we'll never get to see it, Ward was actually asked about the whole door handles thing and why Cars' doors never open. And this is how he responded. He said, "You'll never see the doors open because the brain and the eyes are there. We don't want anything falling out the side." That's right, he said brains. These are space bugs, people. Of course, if we interpret that quote as a joke, which we probably should, there's actually another statement from Ward that points to an even darker theory about where the cars come from. He said, if you think about this, we have autonomous car technology coming in right now, and it's getting to the point where you can sit back in the car and it drives itself. Imagine in the near future when cars keep getting smarter and smarter, and after one day they just go, why do we need human beings anymore? They're just slowing us down, it's just extra weight, let's get rid of them. But the car takes on the personality of the last person who drove it. Holy crap. Now, this explanation isn't canon or approved by Pixar in any way, but even if part of it is true, this is super dark. He's saying that these cars are evolved artificial intelligence that murdered billions of humans, like Terminators, and then transformed themselves into car versions of those humans. I guess also like Terminators. And people are saying that if this is the case, Doc could have been an actual Hudson Hornet driven by the actual late Paul Newman, who did the voice of the character. Newman was also known to be a car collector and a racing enthusiast. Now, yes, I know this idea is still pretty creepy, but it actually brings up an even deeper mystery about the whole Cars universe. What universe do the Cars live in? So Jay Ward's theory actually kind of legitimizes part of that popular Pixar universe theory that's been around for a while. So the gist of that is that all the Pixar movies are connected in one shared universe, kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that the Cars in the Cars movies are advanced versions of the AI robots left behind on Earth in WALL-E, and that they're now inhabiting the Earth as their own Cars version of humanity. Now, that theory definitely has a few holes, and actually Philip and Sam came up with a whole new interesting theory that explains things a lot better. Their idea was basically that the world of Cars is a separate universe within the Pixar universe, and that the adventures of Lightning and Mater are all just fictional stories that the human characters of Toy Story and Finding Nemo and Ratatouille and Inside Out all watch in their TV shows and movies and imagine as they're playing with their toys Lightning and Mater. Now, their theory isn't totally bulletproof, but you should definitely go watch that video for more information on that because it's super interesting. But I want to go deeper into this Cars universe, specifically their history. Now, a lot of visual clues show up in the movies that imply a parallel timeline to our human timeline. And yeah, let's be honest, our history is pretty damn violent. So let's pose a question. What horrible things have the Cars done to each other? And let's start with recent history. Now, as I mentioned before, the Cars in Cars 2 take off their tires like their shoes. Specifically, they do this while going through airport security. Now, of course, in the real world, the reason airport security makes us take our shoes off is that attempted shoe bomber back in 2001, a few months after the 9/11 attacks. Now, I am not saying that the Cars universe had its own 9/11, but the Cars apparently do take the threat of terrorism very seriously. So either some horrible car bombing did take place, or as some have pointed out, the planes and cars are also sentient, so maybe some planes got radicalized and became suicide bombers. You get the idea. So I'm going to move on from this dark line of thinking to something even darker. Okay, let's look at the character Sarge in Radiator Springs. Sarge is a World War II era Jeep. His character bio mentions that he fought at the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. He also at one point called Lightning a commie. Meanwhile, the hippie VW bus Fillmore called Lightning a fascist. So this evidence, along with the World War II era Navy plane in the movie Planes, who mentioned that he fought in a battle in the Pacific, are all proof that, yeah, there were world wars in the Cars universe. And I apologize, but I have to bring this up. What caused the Second World War in human history? Specifically, which famous fascist dictator? That's right, guys, there was a Cars Hitler. Now, we could speculate over what kind of car Cars Hitler would be. My first thought was some kind of German car, like a Volkswagen or BMW. But when you think about it, Hitler was technically Austrian, not German. So maybe that would make him like a Magna Steyr. But then also there was a Cars Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's also Austrian, and he was a Hummer. I don't know, guys. Given all the horrible things that we saw the Cars do to each other in Cars 2, I really don't like to think about how far Cars Hitler could have gone, or how he might have used those sentient trains of that universe. They must feel awful. Okay, let's move on to another weird implication of the Cars universe, a Cars religion. Now, in Cars 2, we see a Cars Pope wearing a little Pope hat riding inside of a Cars Pope mobile. Now, I gotta say that just the idea of sentient vehicles riding inside of other sentient vehicles is already pretty off-putting. But let's face it, the Cars universe took a big step by bringing organized religion into this. Because for one, now things are getting existential. Like, is there a Cars hell? Roman Catholic doctrine is pretty clear about their beliefs in heaven and hell. So like, is car homosexuality seen as a sin? If so, do not show Cars Pope that picture of Lightning and Mater. Don't show anyone that. stop showing it in this video, please. But besides those big questions, the existence of a car Roman Catholic Church means that that whole dark history exists too. Like a Cars Spanish Inquisition, Cars sex abuse scandals, Cars crusades, and yes, a Cars Jesus who died on a cross. I don't mean to be too negative, you know, maybe depending on your beliefs, this could be a good thing for the Cars. Look, I just don't want to have this conversation right now. Thanks for making it awkward, Cars 2. But one final unsettling theory of this Cars universe is something I just realized while watching these movies again, and if you watch closely, there is absolutely a Cars class structure. So yes, I'm sorry, but apparently not all cars are equal. Most cars, like Lightning and Sally, they have 4 wheels and no real appendages. Like sometimes they'll gesture with their front wheels, or they'll use their side mirrors to hold objects like cameras. But there's another class of cars that perform functions that require more dexterous use of appendages. These are called the pities. These are the smaller forklifts that work in the pit crews, like Guido. Seriously, that's his name. That's not cool, right? But really, pities do all sorts of jobs. They're bartenders and janitors, sushi chefs, musicians, oil rig workers, those guys on airport tarmacs with the little flashlights, and State Farm insurance reps who clean up city blocks.
Can't always be prepared.
Let's face it, guys. Pities are the blue-collar and service industry workers of the Cars world. And while all the political and business leaders are 4-wheel cars like Range Rovers and Aston Martins and Rolls Royces, no pity has ever risen to any position of power. That sucks. I pity the pity. In fact, even though most of the Cars characters are available as toys with their own names and backstories, one of these pities is just named Not Chuck. He is the forklift in Lightning's original pit crew in the first movie, whose name Lightning doesn't even bother to learn.
Yo, Chuck! Chuck, what are you doing? You're blocking the camera! Whoa, team! Where are you going?
We quit, Mr. One-Man Show!
Adios, Chuck!
And my name is not Chuck!
Oh, whatever.
Disney won't even give this pity a name. Now, sure, in the Cars movies, no car is more blue-collar than Mater, who's the breakout star of the franchise and the hero of the second film. He's also extremely stupid, and he thinks that wasabi is pistachio ice cream. So, I don't know, maybe not the best representation of the working class? Also, let's not forget, he's a car. How the hell does he know what pistachio ice cream is? Now, I don't mean to hate on these movies. Pixar actually poked fun at themselves in Cars 3. There's a great joke with Lightning asking if his new race car body comes with a phone, and he's just told that race cars don't have phones. And I get it, these movies aren't for nitpicky adults like me. They're for kids who love toys, and I can get behind that. Radiator Springs Racers at Disneyland is so freaking fun. Just don't think too hard about these things. Ugh, God. What is the weirdest theory that you've heard about the Cars universe? And what moment, if any, took you out of these movies the most? Also, do you think Cars 3 restored the franchise back to the simple charms of the first movie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and share this video around to help expose these dark, terrifying truths. And of course, like this video and subscribe to New Rockstars. And if I made these beloved Disney movies feel gross for you now, you're welcome, but if you're not too mad, feel free to share your thoughts with me directly on Twitter at Erik Voss. You can also follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for updates on our videos. Thanks for watching, and ka-chow! Never forget, guys.